Hello friends, and welcome to another WSIB Truth Matters with Joe Machado, where I separate the truth from bullshit, facts from fiction, in plain English. Today, I'm going to talk about an issue that comes up very frequently, and I'm sure most of you have probably had to deal with it at one point or another. So let's get at it. We're back. Hello friends, welcome to this Friday afternoon edition of WSIB Truth Matters. I hope you're enjoying your day. Looking forward to the weekend. I have already made my Friday afternoon preferred bevy, and I am looking forward to the weekend. It certainly has been a long week, and for a lot of you, probably a lot longer. So this this issue deals with something that I have dealt with thousands of times over the last 30 plus years. But it seems like it's coming up more and more often, particularly over the last couple of years. And a lot of it has to do with some of the WSIB's tactics to, well, as you know how I put it, screw the worker. Of course, that's my opinion based on all of my experiences. It's the issue of reemployment obligations. And it is a complex matter. It deals with various policies that the WSIB has. In some cases, it deals with a particular legislation that isn't applicable to current decision-making, current legislation under the Workplace Safety and Insurance Act, but it could deal with legislation under the Workers' Compensation Act for individuals who were injured between January 1st, 1990, December 31st, 1997. But even though some of the laws have changed, the issues seem to be somewhat consistent. And it really deals with the aspect of what employers are responsible for in terms of the return to work process, what their reemployment obligations are, and who's responsible for ensuring that the policy that addresses each and every situation is the proper policy, and that is that it's being applied in a consistent manner so that every injured worker gets treated the same. And the same goes for employers as well, because employers and workers both have issues. However, it doesn't seem to me like the WSIB really has any issues, because it doesn't seem how knowledgeable or experienced or well-equipped their return to work people are. And I say people because they give them different names and different times. In this particular case, we're talking about return to work specialists. Are they doing what they should be doing to ensure that both of the vested parties, which is employers and workers, are being treated equally and fairly within the law? It brings up a number of different issues, such as whether or not the worker is medically able to return to work or engage in return to work discussions or services, whether or not the job or jobs being offered are suitable. And suitability of job involves a lot of things, not just from whether you're medically able to do a job, but there are other factors that need to be considered. And of course, cooperation, the responsibilities and obligations of each party to cooperate. But it really comes down to one, and that is the WSIB, through its return to work specialists and the case manager, because they work very closely, don't go under the misguided impression that they're not. because they are. And whether or not you're being properly advised, because as I said before, there are various policies that come into play, and you need to know your rights, not like trying to hit a piñata blindfolded and hopefully expect to hit it at some point. We all know that things in the real world don't work in that manner. So I'm going to give you some of the basics of the policy so that at least you know what the basics are, what some of your rights are, the actual policy, so you can read through it if you wish to do so. And but obviously, because it is a complex issue, and each case is looked at very differently because each case has its own different set of circumstances, then we at WSIBsettlements.com, my company, can help you address your issues on a more individual or specific basis in terms of your own claim. But for today's purposes, I'm going to bring up the policy and I'm going to go through it very briefly to tell you about some of the key elements in the policy. So the policy is called Reemployment Obligations, and the policy number is 190209. And here's what it says. Complying with reemployment obligations. At the worker's request or on its own initiative, the WSIB can review whether an injury employer has fully complied with their employment obligations. So, at the worker's request, well, the worker has a right to request that the WSIB determine if the employer is complying with their reemployment obligations, or the WSIB on their own initiative can do that. The next one is to conduct this review. The WSIB determines if the injury employer has been notified of their reemployment obligations in writing. That's my own add-on, but it is supposed to be done in writing. Whether the employer has made appropriate offer or offers of the pre-injury job, an alternate job that is comparable or suitable work that is available, made appropriate job offers at times required by law, accommodated the worker and or workplace as necessary to the extent of undue hardship, and maintained employment for the duration of the reemployment obligations. So that's a requirement of the worker to maintain employment for the duration of the reemployment obligations, and it's the employer's responsibility to make sure that employment is maintained and not to sort of work out some sort of constructive way to get rid of the worker because they don't want to be dealing with the worker or the WSIB, and they think that they don't have to adhere to the law. But the bottom line is they do have some very specific responsibilities. And so if you don't feel that this is happening, if your employer hasn't been notified of their reemployment obligations and they're not cooperating despite the fact that you want to return to work, that you're ready, willing, and able to cooperate. If that's not happening, if they're not making the appropriate job offers, and if they're giving someone else a job that should be coming to you because they have some ill-conceived idea that they can do that, and of course some of the other sections of this policy tells them very clearly that they do not. So these are the things that are, some of them are within your control. But none of it really takes place in the manner that the policy is describing, which seems to be pretty straightforward in its written form. It's not going to happen if you don't have a return to work specialist who's working in an independent manner to ensure that you're being looked after. Because what we get quite often is the response from one of our members that it appears as though the return to work specialist is working for the employer, and they're at the employer's beck and call, and that they're not necessarily paying attention to the worker issue, but they are more so paying attention to the employer's concerns. And that shouldn't be happening. But you'd be surprised how often I hear about it happening. And so that doesn't make for a constructive process to be implemented where both parties are going to feel like they're being helped. For an organization that claims to be there to support injured workers, to provide retraining opportunities and all of these things in the event that they're not able to get back to their jobs, and they spend money spewing that crap through advertising, I think they need to start focusing on actually getting the job done and not just paying lip service. Because at the end of the day, when their actions are scrutinized by the law, or those responsible for enforcing the law, and they come up, short, and it appears as though they are not really looking after the worker's best interest or acting in accordance with their own policy, because I didn't write this policy, neither did you or employers, right? It's a problem. All right, friends. So if you find yourself in a situation where you don't think your rights are being treated fairly, and you feel that you're being pressured into an employment situation that is not within your restrictions, then we can help you take action. And of course, address any other issue you have with your claim at WSIBsettlements.com. The name is below here. So I will end this video on that note. Wish you a very good and restful weekend. And I always welcome the opportunity for you to email me directly if you have any questions about this particular subject matter or anything at all dealing with your WSIB claim. All right, friends, if you're new to the channel, I ask that you subscribe. It's free, but it does help me expand and grow the channel so that I can accomplish my mission, which is to reach every injured worker in this province who is currently being screwed by the WSIB or has been screwed by the WSIB in the past. We are here to help. All right, friends? And as always, take care.